minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Akmal Fikri Rosli. Metric number 1191446, and inshallah today I will be reviewing the article titled Comparing the Accuracy of the Modern and Traditional Calculation Methods in the Determination of Prayer Times in Malaysia. So the author of this article is Nurulhuda Ahmad Zaki, Zambri Zainuddin, Abdul Karim Ali, Muhammad Saiful, Anuar, Muhammad Nawawi, Khadijah Ismail, Mohammaddin, Abdul, Niri, and Raihana Abdul Wahab. So this article seeks to address the accuracy of the modern and traditional calculation methods in determining the prayer times in Malaysia. As stated by the authors, before the modern calculation methods was introduced, prayer times were determined through the traditional method known as hubub mujayab. But after some time, it has been replaced by the modern calculation methods because of many reasons. However, there is research that doubts the accuracy of the results from the modern calculation method. Therefore, this research was conducted to analyze the data of prayer time that was accumulated between January to April 2011 by comparing these two methods. As mentioned in this article, this research used inductive analysis to analyze the data pertaining to the calculation of the 5 prayer times which have been gathered between the months of January and April in 2011. The prayer times were calculated using these two methods, and the area chosen for the calculation of prayer time is Kuala Lumpur with the fixed latitude. The authors explain about the traditional and modern calculation methods in determining the prayer times in Malaysia. For the calculation method in the modern method, for the calculation concept in the modern method, this calculation method use the trigonometric formula with the assistance of computational technology such as calculator and computer to calculate the prayer times. With regards to the modern calculation method in Malaysia, the determination of prayer times is based on time zones, which are segregated based on the criteria set by the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia or JAKIM. Regarding the calculation of a prayer times of a zone, there are two concepts used in Malaysia, which is the single reference point station and multi-point reference. In the single reference point station, a reference station will be chosen and fixed at a point in the western side, and it is used all over Malaysia except for Kedah. The location of the reference station is fixed in the western zone based in the concept of sunrise in the east and sunset in the west. So the sun is assumed to first rise in the eastern zones and followed by the western zones. This means that the eastern zones would reach the prayer time before the western zones because the sun crosses the eastern zones earlier. Hence, based on this calculation concept, the prayer times announced in any given zones is based on the calculation made by referring to the zone on the west, which is the single reference point station of the zone. So for the multi-point reference, it is used in Kedah, and the time calculation is different from the single reference point station because the prayer times are not calculated based on a single point in the western zone, but the prayer times are fixed based on the highest calculation result between the points in the zones in the state of Kedah. Next, the calculation concept in the traditional method. The technique used in the traditional calculation method is different from the modern method, as the calculation is not in the form of a formula but in the general description form. This method also really depends on the use of the traditional falak equipment named hubub mujayab to calculate prayer times. This equipment is used to gather the data related to the sun to calculate the prayer. to calculate the prayer times, such as the declination value, height, radius, and the position of the sun. Other than rubuk mujayyab, the traditional calculation method also needs two schedules, which are the earth schedule and the equation of time schedule. With regards to the calculation of prayer times, the traditional calculation method does not involve time zones. Hence, prayer times are calculated exclusively on the latitude of the given place, and does not share the prayer time with other place of other latitudes. So the calculation for the prayer times differs from one place to another. So for the analysis, the calculation concept that is used in the modern method refers to the single reference method, refers to the single reference point station, while the concept in the traditional method use the rubuk mujayyab. Based on the data collected, the author summarized that one prays according to the time that has been calculated based on the modern calculation method will pray a few minutes earlier compared to one who prays according to the time that has been calculated based on the traditional method. It can be deduced that the time difference or the error that occurs to the result of the calculation of prayer times, except Zuhur, is about 2 to 4 times. The authors also mentioned that the value of the difference or the error proves that the prayer times announced by the Mufti departments all over the nation, except for the state of Kedah, is highly doubtable. For the results and discussion of the research, the analysis shows that the traditional calculation method is more accurate compared to the modern calculation method. This is because the result of the traditional calculation method is a few minutes ahead of the modern calculation method, which is up to a maximum of 4 minutes. Then the traditional calculation method is guaranteed to be more accurate because of the approach towards to calculation method that use a more cautious concept in the calculation of prayer times. For the conclusion, the authors iterate that the single reference point station concept is not suitable to be applied in Malaysia because the inaccuracy in its calculation. There are various aspects that must be revised in order to overcome the inaccuracy problem, such as the zone size, finding the sun's ephemeris daily in the zone of prayer times, and others. So the authors conclude that the traditional calculation method is more accurate than the modern calculation method in the determination of prayer times in Malaysia. Lastly, before I ended this article review, I would like to share a few of my opinions regarding this article. First, I agree with the authors that the prayer times in the Malaysia need to be revised, as there are research that show the inaccuracy in the method used to determine the prayer times in Malaysia. However, I also believe that the authorities have did their best in doing their job to set the prayer time in Malaysia, and the members of these authorities must be from the experts in this field. So in my opinion, we should follow the authorities that are responsible in this matter. However, they need to do a regular check or revision in the method used, so that we can get the accurate prayer times. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for listening.